on that note, let's bring in the roundtable. Jonathan Swan, national political reporter for Axios. Aisha Roscoe, White House reporter for National Public Radio. David Bossie, Citizens United president and former Trump deputy campaign manager, also co-author of Trump's Enemies, How the Deep State is Undermining the Presidency. And Heidi Heitkamp, former Democratic senator from North Dakota. All right, Dave, let me start with you. You traveled with the president to Grand Rapids. You flew on Air Force One. As a matter of fact, I think we have a picture of you with him backstage. I'm a little confused. Does he feel vindicated or does he feel hell-bent on revenge? Because I'm kind of hearing both things from him.
Well, both things can be true, right? He feels completely vindicated that after 2 years of lies by the mainstream media, by the Democrats in Congress, that he has been completely exonerated from this fake Russian hoax investigation, which all Americans now know was not true. So the president wants to move on policy, but he also wants to make sure that the important questions get answered, and that is, what did Barack Obama know and when did he know it? What was Clapper and Brennan and Comey and McCabe and the rest of the cabal within the FBI? What did they do with this fake Russian dossier? How did it get to the FBI? Who paid for it? We all know the answers to some of these questions. And I think those are the important ones. There's a lot of smoke here, to quote James Comey. We need an investigation of the investigators.
So it sounds like he's not ready to move on.
I think that's true. And, you know, I think first off, just for a moment of common sense, can we all wait until we actually read the report and not a 4-page summary? Sorry to use the word summary. Yeah, principal findings of the report. Let's read the report. And if the report is as the president has described it and it exonerates him 100%, then fine. He should want everybody to be able to read it. And I think it's time we do move on. But the president is the one who's not moving on. Let's talk about policy. Let's talk about the border. Let's talk about the budget, debt and deficit. But the president now has hammered away at a second investigation that is going to suck up the energy from important work that we need to do.
Are you serious about this?
About what?
About investigating the Democrats.
Oh, yeah.
Rand Paul was out saying Obama himself should be investigated.
Absolutely, they're serious. I mean, I spoke to Lindsey Graham about this last week, and that weekend he was playing golf with Trump in Florida in Palm Beach, and he told me, I promised the president that I would look into the FISA process. And Lindsey Graham said that within the context of he was trying to kind of calm the president down. He said to the president, don't worry, just be happy, take the victory lap. But, you know, Trump's frustrated, and what David said is exactly right. He's angry and he wants answers on this stuff, and they're dead serious. Lindsey Graham is going to use judiciary in this way, and you're going to have support from certain people in the House, like Mark Meadows, for the investigation. They're absolutely going to do it.
Aisha, were you struck that the president, we keep talking about his victory lap, and there was, and certainly, I'm sure you sensed that in the West Wing, his advisors were clearly giddy with what they felt was vindication, but the president's almost first reaction was anger.
I don't know that that's quite surprising, having seen President Trump's history, but I think that it does kind of negate the argument when you say, I don't want any other president to go through what I went through. Well, President Obama was a president, and now you're saying you want him to be investigated. You want to continue the investigations. It kind of undercuts that argument that we want to take politics out of this when you're saying, let's go after the other side now and do what they did to me that I think was wrong. So that's the question.
I understand, but if you look, let's just talk about Adam Schiff for a second and Nadler in the House. These guys are unhinged. Their Trump derangement syndrome, their hatred for this president is greater than their love of country, in my opinion. These folks have lost their way. And little Adam Schiff, this guy has lost all credibility. Every one of the 9 Republicans on the House Intelligence Committee has said he must be removed from that post. I believe you will see the intelligence communities stop wanting to give this liar who uses intelligence as a political cudgel. That's what's gone on in the House.
I think be careful what you ask for. You want to continue this? That's the last thing the president should want. In spite of this, already people in this country do not believe the report. Everybody's become so, you know, I got my camp, that's what I'm going to believe. It is time to do policy. It's time to fix problems.
It's
and
nice
the president cannot get out of it.
You guys have it.
You know, that's what's called leadership. Leadership is where you say, okay, Okay, let's put that aside. Now let's start addressing the problems of this country. That's not what he's doing. He's out promoting grievance, and that is not good for the country, and it makes people even more cynical than what they are.
They
David.
could not be any more cynical than they have been lied to for the last 2 years by the mainstream media and the left and the
David, open up the report. Let us all see it.
First of all, we're going to see whatever we get to see from the report. Who knows what it's going to look like? We have executive privilege issues, which I think are important. Grand jury materials, national security.
Why executive privilege?
Do you think the president's going to balk at this? You know, he seemed to hint in a tweet over the weekend that maybe we give him nothing. I mean, he didn't say he was talking about the report, but what else was he talking about?
Well, I wouldn't give Congress anything. It's an illegitimate investigation. Well,
they got to give Congress.
I wouldn't give them the time of day, John. Look, this Congress.
Why assert executive privilege? If you want the public to see the
if you're
report,
vindicated, why not throw all the...
just asked a different question.
Yeah, well...
There is an executive privilege on issues, and I don't know what they're going to do, but I take that very seriously. Look, Bill Clinton, I fought this...
Barr said no privilege review.
Right.
So
I understand
so Attorney General Bossie wants a privilege review.
I think there has to be a privilege review. That would be irresponsible not to.
Why?
That's interesting.
It's his to invoke.
So let me ask.
It is.
So let me ask. The president also surprised a lot of people by coming out for this this move in the courts to terminate Obamacare, all of Obamacare. You remember what Kevin McCarthy, Jonathan, remember what Kevin McCarthy said about what health care did to Republicans during the course of the midterms? Let's play a little bit of it.
There was one issue we lost overwhelmingly. It was health care by 66 points. Had we lost health care just by 34 points, we'd still be in the majority.
Now, you and others reported that McCarthy actually called Trump and said, don't do this.
Mm-hmm. McCarthy had a private conversation with the president, which we reported, in which he said he doesn't understand why they're doing this, that it makes no sense, that after an election in which they got absolutely crunched on this issue, you know, why would you do that? I've done a bit more reporting since then, and there was a lot of people on the Hill, Republicans on the Hill, who were assuming that this was a Mick Mulvaney puppet strings thing. It's not the case. This is really Trump.
This is Trump.
Trump absolutely thinks this is something that they need to hammer on, and some of his staff are now coming around to his point of view on that.
This goes back to this idea of President Trump feels like he has to keep his promises. They promised to repeal Obamacare, and they have not done it. This is why he keeps talking about John McCain after John McCain has been dead for months. This is something that he continues to go back to. It's not really ideological. It's just this idea that I have to get this done. The problem is Republicans don't have a plan. They are divided, and it's not clear what they would do.
There's another thing. I mean, Trump and no one in there think that this lawsuit's going to succeed. They all think it's going to fail anyway.
So
it's
be
like,
out and say,
it's
I
like,
tried to get rid of
whatever, I kept my promise and the thing fails
But we know that Obamacare is broken. We know Obamacare is not working. We know because the Democrats are moving for Medicare for all. We know if it was working, they wouldn't be doing that. And by the way, John, let's not forget, 10 years ago when we had the debate over Obamacare, we had to debate, and conservatives said it's the first step towards socialized medicine. The Medicare for all is the next step towards socialized medicine. This is part and parcel of what the left has always wanted for America.
So let's just talk about politics. I have, as a college student, I have the protection of my parents' health insurance. Mm-hmm. I have protection against pre-existing conditions. This administration now has said, we're going to take those away from you. We promise we'll give them back, which is what Mulvaney said today. No one's going to believe this. This is horrible, horrible politics.
But
for this
Democrats are going too far with this Medicare for all.
Well, absolutely. I think that there are good things and bad things in the health care law. We need to stop politicizing health care. It's too important to people.
We need transparency. We need competition. We need insurance across state lines.
You know what?
Those
you don't have a plan. You've never had a plan. If the president had a plan, go to Congress with a plan instead of going to the
same Congress who won't even give money for abortion.
Well, you do need Congress to pass. All right, let's get to 2020 because it's not just Donald Trump. So we had Beto O'Rourke announced. He's become the latest. A big announcement in El Paso. What's your assessment? I mean, it's interesting if you look at the polls. We had a poll out this week that looks at the who's done. This is a big name recognition thing, but you see Biden at the top. You see Bernie Sanders. You see Beto O'Rourke. Would you have predicted 3 white men would be at the top of the Democratic field now with a big percentage of the vote.
Right. This, to me, speaks more to name ID than anything else.
Not real.
We are so early. It's so... Trump hadn't even announced at this point in the last cycle. Like, we forget that. And, you know, these numbers can move pretty quickly. I mean, if Biden gets in, he's, you know, potentially at his high water mark right now. It's, you know...
and maybe going down.
Well, and he has a lot that Biden has a lot that he's going to have to answer for and deal with, and these questions are not just going to go away. This is something that he's going to have to kind of answer for, and the question is
these Lucy Flores allegations.
The Lucy Flores allegations, and the question is, when you get in, more of this stuff is going to come out, and so what does that mean for him, and what does that mean for his legacy?
Joe Biden has to be concerned. Does he want to be remembered as Barack Obama's vice president, or does he want to be remembered as another failed presidential candidate? Three-time failed. And he has a lot of issues. Look, I think this story about Ms. Flores is the tip of the iceberg. You're going to see a lot. I think that's a high fastball to him, but it's also the corruption issues that Joe Biden is going to have to deal with on Ukraine and other places.
I'm with Jonathan.